Hello, I'm Liz Zorab and this is Byther Farm. It looks like autumn's arrived. On Tuesday, Mr J and I took a day trip out and we went to see Tony O'Neill from UK Here We Grow. And if you're not familiar with Tony's channel, I'll leave a link up here. And we had a really nice time. He's got a fantastic plot. And unfortunately, the weather was so awful. It was really windy, really rainy. So I hardly took any footage at all. But we are going back again next week. And the weather forecast says it's going to be really nice, a cool, clear day. So I'm going to take my camera with me and hopefully I'll be able to show you some more of his plot. But we sat in Tony's absolutely amazing shed, which is about the size of our kitchen. And we drank tea and we talked. So it was really nice to spend some time with Tony. Have a look at some of the food he was growing. A bit blown away by how lovely his plot is, and it's so neat and tidy compared to here. It did make me come home and think maybe I needed to tidy up here a bit. Anyway, while I was there, we had a look in Tony's polytunnel. He's growing a banana plant in his polytunnel, but that wasn't the bit I was amazed at. The bit I was amazed at was the two vines that he's growing. He's got one red grape, one white grape, and they are fantastic. They are absolutely huge plants, completely laden with fruit, and they're only 2 years old. Absolutely amazing. And Tony very kindly shared some of his grapes with us. These are a seedless grape. They're very sweet and they're very lovely. Well, he gave us about twice that amount. We've just been eating them non-stop. And he also gave us a huge number of red grapes. And when I say a huge amount, I really do mean that. That was well over 20 pounds of red grapes. I'm delighted, I'm absolutely delighted. So my plan is to freeze some of them for use later in the year, to make some red grape jelly from some of them, to make some wine. And in fact, in true Blue Peter style, here's some I made earlier. So this is the red grape jelly. It's really nice. I'm very pleased with that. And I'm going to start off some wine today as well. And I'm also going to use some of the grapes to mix with other fruits. So I can make something like a plum and grape wine, which I did a couple of years ago. Mr J really liked it. So I'm delighted that I can do that again. And while we were there, the gentleman who has the plot next to Tony came round to meet us, and he also brought us a huge bag of beetroots. And I'm so pleased because although we've grown a lot of beetroot this year, we are getting through it very quickly. So I'm really pleased that there's some more. And what I've done with it is to start off some beetroot wine. Now, I haven't made beetroot wine before, so it's not quite an experiment because I have read a recipe. And one thing I do know is I'm going to have to keep it in a dark demijohn and also in dark bottles so it doesn't lose that beautiful colour. So what I've done is wash the beetroot really, really well and boil them for about 15 to 20 minutes and then drain that water off, allow them to cool down. Chop them up into very fine pieces, and I wore gloves because otherwise my hands would be purple by now. And I've popped them into the bowl over here. Covered them in boiling water, covered them over, and I'll leave that to steep for a couple of days and then use that liquid to make some wine. I will make a video showing the beetroot wine from beginning to end so that you don't have to dip into lots of different videos. That will get one on its own. So it's going to take a little while, take a few weeks to make, but there will then be the beetroot wine recipe. I've come out to my beyond messy greenhouse, which is now, I've just noticed, got bindweed growing all over the floor, so I definitely need to get that up. But I wanted to show you, Tony not only gave us those grapes, which are absolutely amazing, he also gave me a white grape plant. So this is from a cutting that he's taken. It already has a leader, so that will grow upwards, and it's got 2 branches growing out, so I can start training this almost as soon as it's planted. Thank you, Tony. Really nice gift. While I'm out here, I've just noticed in the corner There is a self-sown tomato. Knowing what I grew in here last year and looking at its flower, I think it's probably a brandywine type tomato. I think it might be a little late in flowering, but we might get 1 or 2 tomatoes on it just before the end of the year. What a nice surprise. The storms of the last few days have done some damage out in the garden, nothing too horrendous, but the Greek gigantes beans, that support has collapsed again. Big lessons learnt for next year. You know, next year, between now and planting our beans next year, we're going to put in a permanent structure of support posts into the ground for the canes to lean on, so that we don't get this collapsing every time it's windy. Looking back at my videos over the last couple of years, we do get really strong winds at some point in June or July, which kind of bend them quite a lot and weaken the canes. And then in September, while they're still ripening, we get these very blowy storms that are knocking them to the ground. So, you know, makes sense. Before next year, we'll have that permanent support structure put in. And the runner beans, likewise, about 1/3 of them have collapsed. So yesterday, in between the rain, I ran out, picked a load of the beans, particularly the ones that had got to the floor, and today I've been processing those. I've had a look at the corn, which is obviously quite tall and therefore vulnerable to the wind. There's actually not that much corn left to harvest. That doesn't look too battered, surprisingly. So I will gather those last few sweet corn and bring those in the next day or so. And one of the things that's really surprised me is the pampas grass, which is looking so beautiful at the moment, has been knocked sideways by the wind. And I don't know whether that will right itself over the next couple of weeks, or whether I'm going to have sideways pampas grass for the rest of the year. Well, that's it for me today. I'm heading back indoors. I've got a whole load of grapes that need my attention, some runner beans that need to get blanched and put in the freezer. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one. And I also hope you'll join me again tomorrow.